Hey guys, hope all of you are well. I know you're probably like, Angie, where you been? We have Dr. Tuesday Tuesdays, of course, because of the holidays. And guys, you would not believe. First of all, I hope everybody's having a blessed year so far. The beginning of the year, I wanted to start these a little bit sooner in January, but was hit with a series of family members that had passed. And, sometimes you have to just kind of do what you can. And that's what I did. But I was always planning on having these back up. I'm so thankful for everybody that supported it last year. You all reached out, from agents to clients to people who were just paying attention. You all reached out with so much information, so much gratitude for the info. And so we're going to continue this on. Tonight, we actually have my district director from Fathom Realty, Mrs. Brandi Clarkson. Hey, Brandi.
Hello.
She is over the Columbia and Piedmont area and regions. She is awesome at what she does. I'm going to allow her to give a little bit of her background, so you can find out a little bit more about it. And then we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. Go ahead, Brandi.
All right. So I was licensed in 2018. In 2020, made the best decision ever and joined Fathom. Got my broker's license, started a team, became a mentor, and now I'm a district director. So I get to still practice real estate, still work with my clients, but lead you guys and plan fun events and trainings and just be here to support you. It's a good life.
Yes, and what she means is that this is who we call to bother. Who we have questions. She probably gets phone calls from callers and myself. We try not to do it once a week, but we do lean on her because, guys, for anybody who's thinking about getting into real estate, you got to have access to people such as the person to my right. I don't know if she's showing up to my right or my left, depending on how the screen is set. But this way, there you go. And so you really need someone like Brandi that's on your team that you can be able to talk about these guidelines because the laws are constantly changing. And for people who don't realize it and you want to get in real estate, let me tell you something, it's law. You're doing sales, but you're also practicing a little bit of law in there, which you see when you go to real estate school. They teach you nothing but law. But on top of that, you got to add that on the sales part. And so someone like Brandi who can be able to, you can talk through the laws and not only that, bounce back things because as you know, law is never black or white, it's sometimes gray. And so you need to have that leadership. And so that's one thing that I do love about Fathom is that they have their broker in charges, but they also have their district directors that are in certain areas. So you have a plethora of people that are in leadership roles that could be able to assist you. So thank you so much, Brandi. Thank you. And so because of all this experience that Brandi has and what she's doing in her lead, I thought it was best that we get her on to talk about buyer's representation and agency disclosures. We get questions. I'm sure she's getting it, especially now with, as you all probably remember, I had one of the Real Estate Commission's, Gary Pickering, on last year to talk about with the settlements with the National Association of Realtors in regards to agents, commissions, and all those types of things. And so things have changed, and not just changed in South Carolina, but it's changed also across the country in real estate. And so I always get questions from, clients in regards to this or from people in general. And so I felt it was best that we start off with this year, that you understand kind of what our roles are, why it's important. Just talk about some things. And Brandi, just to let you know, we are live. So sometimes we may have people that may come in and ask questions. I'm able to see that through the comments. And if so, I'm keeping tabs of that to ask some questions in regards to it. All right. And for you all out there, we are live. So if you have questions, please put it through your chat. And I'm monitoring both Instagram and Facebook, guys, for the chats. Okay? All right. So one of the things I want to start off with, Brandi, is if you can explain, and I'm trying to think of how we can go about with this, with explaining. I guess we could start off with kind of really generally talk about what buyer's representation is, the difference between kind of what that is, and then we can then kind of go into the difference between a client and a customer. But with when it comes to buyer representation, what that truly is from an agent standpoint and from an agent to client standpoint, and then I can kind of tap into a little bit more of that customer side of that if you want me to.
Sure. To me, buyer representation, first and foremost, is having someone on your side. They're your advocate. They are looking out for your best interest. They're negotiating on your behalf, and they are keeping track of the transaction throughout the entire thing. A lot of people can go to a listing agent or even to a new construction office without an agent, but they don't have anyone fighting for them and advocating for them. So to me, buyer agency is extremely, extremely important. There's a lot that goes into being an agent. We aren't just door openers.
Yeah.
We from the moment that we meet you, take the obligation that we are here to protect the public and represent their best interests. A lot of I know the public doesn't know, and a lot of agents don't know what these contracts say. They don't know how to navigate the process. They may not understand the timelines or even what each paragraph says. When we get new agents, we put them through the mentee program, or they have to join a team. And one of the assignments for every one of my mentees is to pick that contract apart and email me a synopsis in their own words of what each paragraph means. So I know they understand. And that's just the paperwork. That's nothing else that goes into the transaction.
Exactly. I think people don't realize, I think because we have sites like Zillow, Trulia, where it's so easy for you just to click on and you see this, and now you can even go and they say you can schedule. Guys, let me be honest, you really can't schedule. You still have to go through an agent to get inside the house. It's not as if you could just click on that button and show up at 5 o'clock and the house opens for you. But they don't realize those things. And not even just that, the communication between all parties that's involved in the transaction, from talking to the lenders, finding out. Like I have clients like, hey, okay, you pre-qualify. What type of loan do you have? I don't know. I'm like, okay, do you know what you got to put down? I don't know. It's so much that's involved in. And I just tell people, I say, well, if you had $200,000, would you go invest in Robinhood? Or would you go and actually reach out to an actual broker that's licensed in the stock market and invest that money? That's what you're doing. The average price of home here in Columbia is what, $250,000? It's probably gone down just a little because it's mellowing out. But let's $250,000. Would you just take that in a briefcase and or either just put it in your bank account and put it all on Robinhood and just start investing? No, you want to have someone that is, knowledgeable in those laws, knowledgeable in what's going on, so that way they're looking out for your best interest. I like how what you stated before about the contracts, about how you have, new agents come in and actually send you parts of the contracts. Because like in our state, I don't think people realize we have so many contracts. You have the CCRA contract, you have the state contract, and every different region, because we work in multiple different MLS. I mean, just from the Piedmont to the Columbia area, in Piedmont area, you have due diligence money that you got to sometimes give. Columbia area, we don't have to worry about it as much. It's just so much that is different. And if you're not aware of that, you can really find yourself caught up to something that you can't get out of once you sign on that dotted line. Or you can without, but it's going to be some consequences. Meaning, anyway. Okay, and so I want to talk about as far as besides the contract part and that nature. Bless you. I know you talked about things. Oh no, you're fine. That you talked about other things too, as far as what buyers' rights are. That what they don't realize how their rights are protected with us too, as well. Um, like the confidentiality and things of that nature and such too.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the one of the big differences between a customer and a client. Your fiduciary duties are limited when it comes to a customer, but as a client, you owe them every fiduciary duty: obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care. I mean, I don't feel like, and you and I have had this conversation, it's very difficult to represent someone as a customer for me. Um, I don't feel like I can adequately do my job. So very rarely do I work with customers, but so many people don't realize what the difference is, and that when they're walking around with an agent, and our new rules are only for realtors besides the disclosure. So when you're walking into a house, if you're only signing a disclosure to get in that house, anything you say is free reign. You just don't have the same protections. And I stop people at open houses and say, please stop talking when they start telling me their situation. When I'm like, I don't represent you, please stop. Um, yeah. And have paperwork there with me so that if they really do want representation and guidance, I can give it to them, but we have to go through the proper steps first.
Exactly. I've been taking, I've been taking all these designation classes. On top of us getting licensed, there's all type of other classes as agents we can be able to take as well. So, and kind of get these other designations and learn. And I have to give credit to Todd Beckford. Hope I'm saying his last name right. I hope he doesn't. I hope I did. But he gave a great acronym when we were trying to discuss the differences between being a client and a customer. And the acronym for being a customer is hard. You can only do honest, H for honesty, A for accountability, R for reasonable skill and care, and D for disclosure. That's all you could get. But the acronym stands for hard. And it is hard because as agents such as Brandi and myself, we're used to service and serving you completely. It's hard to find. It's a fine line for us to be able to truly advocate, because as agents we have to advocate for you because we care. And not to say that agents who take customers don't care. It's just really hard for us. I know it's hard for me to not overstep the boundaries of what we're allowed to do. And that's the thing. It's only so much that we are allowed to do when you're not being fully represented by us with the buyer's agency agreement. And so it's not that we don't want to, it's just that the law states that this is what we're supposed to be doing and only what we're supposed to be doing. And so when you get into, having more of, like you said, and that's why when she was saying she doesn't, not able to really service customers, I'm not even either, because of the fact I'm going to overstep those boundaries. It's not a question of if I will, because I believe in what we're doing, what agents do, and I believe in the necessity of what we do. And honestly, when you start disclosing it and explaining it to people, they realize too, like, wait a minute, this is what I need. I need you. I do need you to talk to the lender. I do need you to, be able to look at these things and see. As customers, we're not able to be doing as much. Okay. And as far as you can kind of go into, because we all know, everybody knows that when you get represented by an agent, they're only representing you. Do you have some, could you go over some pros and cons, or just all pros in regards to when it comes to dual agency and what that means?
Pros for dual agency, you said?
Yes, pros and cons. I try to give everybody so that way they can see kind of what that means for us. And also sometimes, sometimes people be a little weary of it, of what they worry about when it comes to dual agency, what that actually means for them.
Well, I can tell you from my experience, when I have practiced dual agency, I turn more into a mediator. of going back and forth. This is what I'm here to deliver to you, and then go back to the other side. We can't tell them, if they say, well, if I say no to these repairs, are they going to walk? Everything's pretty much I don't know, even though we do know, but we can't tell you. So it turns our position more into a mediator. We're still handling communication and doing the transactional things that we need to be doing, but we're not giving the advice anymore. We are trying to move this to closing. They have those homes that I have sold with dual agency have ended up in the end being some of my favorites. The buyers and sellers are usually friends by the end, and they're the ones where you're going to lunch after closing and things like that typically. The downfall is they are not your advocate anymore, and they cannot give you information that they know. So that can be a little bit hard. So when we go into the situation, I explain you can't expect me to break their confidentiality and vice versa, the same side. Everyone has to agree to it, and they have to agree to it before the contract's signed or on the day the contract's signed. So everyone is aware, as long as the agent has explained it, what is happening. I myself, a lot of people don't agree with dual agency because they say it's too big of a conflict of interest. I think it depends on what your goal is when you're going in and if everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Even when I do sometimes with the agreements, I just say, hey, I don't have permission at this time, because again, like Brandi stated, we have to make you aware of it. As soon as you want to see this house, and it's the house that not only that I may be listed, but somebody in my firm is listed. We have to make you aware of that, so that way that you know that there's no type of, backroom deals going on and so forth. And even so, and sometimes people do worry about that, like, especially if they're just meeting you as an agent. They don't know if, okay, well, let me see her character a little bit. Afterwards, a little bit after people get to see how we work, then they have no problem. Like, I've had clients at first who was like, no, I don't want to do dual agency. And then as soon as we get on list, and they're like, they get to see how Carlos and myself work. And okay, I don't mind, I don't, because I see how you work, and that's why it's so, that's another reason why it's so important to have that integrity while you're working too, and people can see it, because of the fact you are handling, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They want to make sure that whoever's in there, that people are doing their best, I like dual agency too. And one of the reasons why is because I know the agent is going to respond. That's why, because I know that the agent is going to respond. I know I'm going to be able to find out what's going on. That's a little bit of humor, but I know that I'm going to know what's going on, and I can be able to have more control of making sure that, hey, this is going to get done, versus having another whole firm I have to make sure that I work it out with. But it is hard because, again, we cannot share details if the sellers will take a little bit lower and they really do everything. We can't tell them. And you're right. That was perfect scenario. You turn to a mediator, but you get it done. And people use mediators all the time when it comes to legal matters and such. And it works out successfully, Okay. As far as with in regards to, what are the best ways that buyers can educate themselves on the importance of agency disclosures and how it impacts their decisions? Like, besides talking to us, what's another thing that that a buyer could possibly be able to do? Because, we can tell them all the things and what's important of what needs to be done. But I know, but I would like to hear your thoughts of kind of what some other great resources they can be able to kind of discuss these with too.
Sure. The document they sign, they should read it and not just click through an e-sign. They should, there are websites to help the buyers. The National Association of Realtors, our local association, has documents right there on their web pages. even though everyone's not a realtor, most people associate the word realtor with all of us. Just Google Realtor Association. They can find the forms there. They can find different graphics there. They can find videos. But most importantly, their agent should be explaining it to them before they sign it, and then they should be reading it when they do sign it. I always get tickled when we finish reviewing things and I send something to get signed and they text me a question. I'm like, you're reading it. Thank you. Um, so that tickles me, because then I know, okay, you have some ownership in this process too. That's awesome. So yeah, there's a lot of resources. I believe that the Fathom website even has a page on there where they can go and look at the differences.
Okay. And this kind of goes into what I was going to ask, some of the best practices for explaining. So we know on the buyer side, what kind of what agents, to my agents that may be looking, I have real estate agents that look at these as well. What are the best practices for explaining the disclosure to buyers early in the relationship to avoid any type of confusion later in the transaction?
One thing that is important is to explain that the agreement's not with the agent, it's with the brokerage. So I have a fun way of explaining it to my clients, and I'll tell you, I've rarely had a client cheat on me since I started explaining it this way. But I explain it just as that. It's a relationship. So compare it to, if you're dating, compare it to the difference in dating and being married. If we sign this document together, we are committed to each other. Not just I'm committed to you, you're committed to me as well. So we go through all of the duties, but in a way that they understand it. I don't say I'm going to be obedient. I explain, when you take marriage vows, you say that you're going to honor and obey, right? Well, that's what I'm going to do, with limitations, of course. But that I go through and explain it just like that. And at the end, I say, do you have any questions? And normally they don't have any, because they can relate to what I'm explaining to them, instead of tuning out and being ready to just sign.
Exactly. And that makes sense. Just having a conversation to whereas clients understand and know exactly what it is our roles are, what we do, because we are. I mean, that's what we are. We are committed. I tell people all the time, I'll be your best friend for the next couple of weeks, a month, however long it is, because we are there for every intricate detail of what's going on throughout the process. And we're not just there when you sign that contract. The hard work actually begins once you sign the contract. That's when the real work begins, honestly. And just finding out what's needed. But I like that. Hey, we're not just dating. We're married, and so therefore you're committed to me. I'm committed to you. Yep. You cannot get divorced. Oh goodness. And so I wanted to and so in other things too, anything else that you would like to touch on, anything else important that you would like to touch on, Brandi, that as agents we need to be aware of, but not just that, as buyers too, and what the most thing they need to understand when it comes to having that buyer's representation.
Yeah. I know I touched on the contract a little bit, but I use kind of a flow chart that shows the buyer, this is what I do throughout the transaction, so that they, especially now with our rule change, because we really have to have that discussion, that buyer consult, and explain our value, because they're signing up for new rules. So I just think it's important that they understand what we do through the process, that they understand what their different options are in the contract, that we don't just mark a box, because that's what we normally would do. One of the major things I see that some real estate professionals don't see on the contract, most buyers don't at all, is the difference in the due diligence. And not the as is or with right to terminate, but the timeline. The timeline's completely different. And yes, I have had repair addendums submitted to me on a as is with due diligence contract on day 11. That's still not okay with regular due diligence, but you have no time to negotiate, no time for anything with an as-is contract. You've got 10 days. That's it. You either move forward or you terminate. And I see a lot of that in the industry where the timelines are not abided by or even known by sometimes the agent, but a lot of times the buyers.
I'm gonna be honest. I have Carlos has to get on me all the time in regards to the difference because how things have changed, and he's like, Angelina, it's not the
Yeah.
same, because while we're going through these contracts, Angelina, it's not the same
Mhm.
because it has changed, and where you're so used to, like myself, I've been in it for 11 years, and you're used to seeing those due diligence periods being that way, and now you have a date, and that date is including all of the negotiation and everything else, and it's different per contract. It's kind of you have to make sure that you're paying attention to those things so that way you can make sure that you are advocating properly for your client. Because if I'm thinking, okay, I got 10 business days, and then after that, the seller has 5 business days to get their quotes and decide, and really technically the whole period from them negotiating and you getting it over to them to see is all the whole 10 days. Well, then that seller could easily be like, well, you didn't give me any time, so I declined it. I'm assuming that you just want it as because you didn't give me any time to get any quotes. I can't read it.
And that's over half of the normal transaction period. That's what a lot of people don't understand is if we don't get that tied up with a bow pretty quickly, this whole thing could fall apart and you've paid for appraisal, title work's been done, everything. So having an agent that knows the timelines, that knows their stuff and that is on top of it is huge. You don't want to be halfway to closing and you don't even have due diligence wrapped up.
Or to have that appraisal ordered as
Yes.
well. Because in between there, you have your appraisals being ordered. You're having it's a whole lot of money that you're having to do, and you still yet haven't just you don't have an answer yet from your client. I mean, seller, if they're going to do these major repairs.
Right.
Oh my goodness. And that's the thing, guys. When we're talking about these things, these are the things, if you're considering, I don't know if some of you all are out there, you may have an agent, you may not, or you're considering buying a house. These are the things you have to keep in mind. There are timelines, there are contracts, there are due diligence periods, there are contingencies. There are so much more in there versus you deciding on how much you want to pay for the house and how much closing costs you may get.
Mhm.
Or if you get any. And I say closing costs because, if you go to new construction, they have it, they have it up there, they have it up there for you to let you know, hey, we're giving this and the refrigerator and everything. And so much more that's still tied to that besides just getting your price and that. I mean, it's just so much. And I think and I get it because we're seeing TV shows where you have HGTV, and nothing wrong with HGTV, but I'm one of those people, if my family knows, just turn it off. Because they know. It's just one of those things, that's not what truly happens. It's for entertainment. But like that, it doesn't happen to where as you go and you're getting $50,000 off of a property that the person has listed. Or that, now can you close in 2 weeks? Yes, I've had people do that. But it's just so much that's involved. And the fact that people thinking that they're saving money without utilizing an agent. You do not. You don't save in regards to new construction. You don't save sometimes when you're dealing with for sale by owners. We have studies upon studies that show you do not end up saving as much as you think you do. And then a lot of people who try to attempt to do it without us are like, I'm not doing this again. I said next time I was going to get this person to do it. Now, do people sell their home without us? They do. A lot of times, the people that are successful are attorneys because they read contracts, but that still doesn't mean that they didn't get that. That means they got a great deal. They still are in their percentage of getting, lesser for their home because you read a contract. We read markets and contracts and repair addendums and a whole other stuff, loan estimates and such. And so it's just so much that's involved in what we do. And you got to make sure that you have an agent that cares about what they do too. That's going to be there with you, as you're doing that and things. I know I love calling Brandi when I have scenarios, and I love hearing the passion in her voice because, when we're talking about different scenarios, I'm like, okay, Brandi, because I'm all about making sure. I'll tell you what I say, Brandi, that I follow the law. I want to make sure I'm following the law. And we talk about these things, and she's like, okay, this is what you need to do. This is the reason why. And I just, it gives so much clarity. And so those things, we even had a training, and all the agents was talking about how they were just grateful of how you're so available. And not only that, not only you're available, but getting the information out to us. Even if it's something you have to look into is never a lack. And that's important to us because we have a third party, which is our clients, looking for this information that we can get done. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to, Brandi, I'm going to put your information down if that's okay. I was going to put your contact information down if people want to reach out. For those of you all that are looking forward to get into the home, she is, yes, our district manager, but like Brandi says, she is still doing her service as far as with us. I'm going to put information down so you can see it. Well, I thought I was. There we go. At the bottom here. So guys, if you want to get in touch with Brandi, this is her contact information below. This is her cell. I gave you cell number.
It's okay. Same number.
Right.
Not a phone. It's okay.
So this is her actual personal phone number, along with Brandi Home again at Gmail. That's her email address. Guys, please, she's also part of the Fathom family. This is our district manager. This is who backs us up and gives us information. If you are an agent and you're looking for a home to where you could be able to be helped and have that support too, guys, reach out to Brandi. Find out more about what Fathom also can offer you. If you're an agent and you're trying to decide, should I get representation? Reach out to Brandi, guys. Get representation. You have years of experience here on this panel that have sold hundreds of homes compared to most people probably buy about 5 or 6 in their lifetime. So get in touch with an expert to help you, okay? And not just to get information from, because we're having that too, where buyers will call us and just want to get info. Guys, you cannot call an attorney and get free legal advice. So you have to commit to that attorney. So the same thing, if you have an agent that is there to assist you and they're willing to walk you through, commit to that agent. They have your best interest in mind. And then these disclosures that we went over, these are legal documents to make sure that we do that. So it's not as if we can just tell you whatever we want to and just drop you by the wayside. No, you're protected by those documents too. And that's what it's all about. Brandi, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you coming on. If there's anytime that you want to come back on. Oh, we got a comment. Somebody did a comment. Oh, Dan is on. Guys, this is our broker in charge. He said great info, ladies. So thank you so much, Dan. All right. Also, I have to make sure that we had anything, make sure we had any contacts. Okay. I'm just checking all platforms to make sure there was no comments. I didn't miss anything. So Brandi, thank you again for coming on. I greatly appreciate it. Whenever you want to come back on, please do. You are more than welcome to. Guys, if you missed the first part of this, you can check it on our Facebook page. But an easy way that you can catch up on all Tuesday tune-ins is just go to Deals with Angie on the YouTube page, and you can be able to catch this full segment of us going over buyer's agency. If you need a more detailed discussion about representation and looking for an agent, got one below here. You can call me too, but I also like to promote people who can also come on my segment as well. All right, Brandi. Guys, thank you so much. I want you all to make sure you tune in next week. We're going to have a Linda talking about some new programs that are available in this area. So make sure you tune in at our Tuesday Tune In, where we are live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So please come in, okay? All right. All right, Brandi. Thank you so much.
All right.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. You guys have a blessed one.